This is the final boarding of gate B. Station. Please gather your belongings.
Here's your ticket, dude. So today we had bring your son to work day. Not really, but I brought my son to work, and now he's operating the camera. So we've got him working hard. Just like Big Head Taco has camera girl, today we've got camera boy. But we're about to go do some street photography in the lovely Chinatown here in San Francisco, one of my favorite places to go because I like to take photos of tourists, as I've mentioned before. So anyway, we're gonna go do that, but I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk to you about the GH5. It's been a review I've been wanting to do for a long, long time. I'm not really sure why I haven't had the muster to get it done. To me, this camera, for whatever reason, it feels like a lot of effort, and part of that is because I just have such mixed feelings on it. So today we'll be taking it out. I'm gonna do some video, some photo on the street. And while we do that, I'm gonna talk to you about what I like, what I don't like. The first thing I want to mention is the quality of photos. As a photographer first, before a videographer, for me, this is the thing that is not negotiable. Fortunately, aside from more noise than I'd like at moderate ISOs, I can say that I'm extremely happy with the quality of photos coming out of this Micro Four Thirds sensor. Next up, I have to say that I'm fairly happy with the onboard microphone. Now it's not going to be as good as a shotgun mic, certainly. But as you can tell now, which I'm using the onboard camera right now, and you can hear, it's not too bad. Now it's going to pick up a lot more ambient noise, but it is better than a lot of other cameras that I've tried. And so there are times where, especially like out here where I want to be a little bit more inconspicuous, that I prefer not to put the shotgun mic on top of the camera. So I trust this will do a decent job in times like that. I'm going to tell you about this next bit while I walk, because it's the next thing that I love about this camera, and that is the in-body image stabilization. Not just the in-body, but the in-lens and the electronic. Now it's going to give you a little bit of crop with that electronic, but I think it's well worth it. And for somebody like me, who I'm terrible at getting steady footage, this is just an absolute must. It's the reason I would choose this over most other mirrorless camera options, including the A6500. For someone who never, ever uses a gimbal or a steady cam of any kind, run and gun, you know, arguably terrible quality vlog video, it sure helps when you know that a camera is going to steady things at least a little bit. It makes up for something I lack, and that to me is the biggest, hands down the biggest selling point. The GH5 is just beautiful, butter smooth image stabilization. thing I really love is the variable frame rate capability. Just amazing for getting that slow motion. I love that I can shoot 120, 60, cut it down to 30, 120, cut it down to 60 or 30, or if I want, shoot it at 17%. Just get that really smooth slow-mo. I mean, I don't use it that often, but it's fun to have for when I do. Do you want to help me test something on my camera with your new fidget spinner? Okay, a couple other things that I really like about this camera. The flip out screen, it's essential, it's a must, especially if you do any vlogging or if you're going to be doing a lot of filming for your kids. I've never understood why Canon, Nikon, and other manufacturers feel like a flip out screen is less professional. To me, that's just ridiculous. I guess I'm a little biased here though because I'm a vlogger, but even when I'm videoing kids or pets or whatever, I really love having that. So I don't understand why not very many high-end quote-unquote video cameras don't give you that. To me, it's just frustrating because really it means that the GH5 and a couple others are only really viable options. And if you want 4K, I mean, I also don't mind the focus speeds of AFS single. Of course, continuous focus has its issues, and I'll come back to that. But the single focus, when you've got a smallish focus point, and if you do a half press on AFS, I mean, it's pretty snappy. It's not gonna win any awards, but it gets me what I need, especially when I'm doing shots like this on the street. It's snappy enough to where I can nab those shots fairly quickly, and I haven't been disappointed, so. Hey, look who's here, vlog. Too late to do any photography, but she's finally here. Her flight was delayed. Hey, Denae, I'm doing a review of the GH5. What do you want to say about it?
The focusing sucks.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, on that note, I think maybe we'll talk now about some of the things that I don't love about this camera. But first, we're going to eat at this wonderful restaurant called the Golden Star. Okay, so a few things I really dislike about the GH5. The first thing is the placement of the display button. For a company, for Panasonic, who's thought through so many things, so many of the finer details, what were they thinking with the placement of that display button? It's one of the most frustrating things about this camera. When I pick it up and my thumb goes straight to where that display button is, and all of a sudden I'm looking at a black screen. It's ridiculous. I don't understand it. So, huge fail, and actually that's the number one most frustrating thing for me about this camera. It's not even the autofocus, it's that The next thing I struggle with is the low light performance of the GH5. It's not spectacular, and of course that's a function of this being a micro four thirds sensor. Normally I'll use the denoiser on my footage, but in this case I'm not going to. It's starting to get dark here on Grant, And with it being a little bit more dark, I can show you how this performs at a little bit higher of ISO values. So I'm just gonna leave those untouched and you can get a feel for what the grain is doing. So the other thing that drives me crazy is that once it gets going recording, if I tap anywhere on the screen, let's say to refocus on my eye or whatever, everything goes away and I don't see the little recording red blinky thing. I go, what's another thing that I scratch my head and wonder what were they thinking, is I have no idea until I half press again if it's really recording or not, and it causes me a lot of doubt, and I don't need doubt in my life. I need assurance that my camera is there for me. And the other thing is the lenses, the electronic focus. It's not great, and I think if I was doing serious video, I certainly wouldn't use these Leica branded lenses. I mean, they're great for what I'm using it for. I'm using the 12-60, and I like that. It's super flexible. It works well for vlogging. I know it has a variable aperture. That doesn't bother me too much. But the quality seems fine to me. It's probably more expensive than it should be. What doesn't work for me is when I'm doing manual focus, and that electronic focus ring, it just kind of sucks. So I think, you know, if I was doing serious video, I would probably get something more manual and dampened, a little more tactile. Okay, so the final two things that I seriously dislike about the GH5. One is the autofocus. You know, I think this has been hashed and rehashed. We all know that it's not great, and I think I'm on autofocus continuous right now. Yeah, so I'm on AFC right now, and I have been for the last little bit. If you see some micro focusing happening in the background, you probably will. That's because that's just one of the characteristics of the GH5, unfortunately. But even more than that, sometimes it'll just decide to focus on whatever the hell it wants to focus on. The best way to get around that, don't shoot an AFC, shoot an AFS, half press, get it where you need it to go, and voila. Big problem. I'm hoping they'll fix that. I've heard whatever, people in the know seem to think that they're going to. So cool if they do. I'm not holding my breath. But you know, I work my way around it. Now, in some of my vlogs in the past, I've struggled with it, but I feel like I'm getting better. And part of that is just good technique, which granted, my video technique is not especially amazing. So it's making me better. Now, the exception to that is in low light, where it seems to struggle a little bit. And maybe we'll do some focusing on me in the background, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Actually, well, it seems to be doing okay right now, but often it's just gonna totally misfocus when it's dark. Here's some example footage of the GH5's autofocus performing less than perfect in low light. While we're on the subject of focusing, I want to mention the focus pulling feature. I didn't know about focus pull when I bought the GH5, but when I discovered it, it quickly became a favorite feature of mine. My only issue with it is that the focus pulling does not feel natural. Panasonic needs a setting that mimics a focus being racked by hand. Alright, so I'm back here where I started, this lovely green statue here at Dragon's Gate. Had a great evening with the GH5, exploring its strengths, exploring its weaknesses, and most importantly, coming away with some photos that are... I did lose Camera Boy along the way somewhere, but I had a good time with the GH5 tonight. Took some video, took some photos, hopefully enough for you to get a little feel for how this camera performs. I will divulge to you that when I got the GH5, I had that return form filled out and I was ready to hit submit on that B&H return form on their website 3 times in the same week. And I was just hovering over that submit button and I just couldn't quite do it. I was frustrated about some of the things that I've already described, but I just couldn't do it. And the reason why is because I kept thinking to all the other alternatives that I had, and nothing was even close. Even as frustrated as I was with a few of the usability things with the autofocus, it's still the best thing out there, bar none, for vlogging, for documenting life, in my opinion. And the longer I use it, the more satisfied I am with the decision to keep it. And I guess that's where I have to leave it. For me, if I'm gonna go out to do some shooting, and I know that I'm gonna be doing a lot of video and a lot of stills, and I just want one camera to do the job, there's absolutely no question which camera I'm gonna grab. And I just wanna conclude by saying that this camera allows me to capture life in a hybrid way, and for that reason I love it. I have to tell you also that I have 3 other cameras. I brought them out to San Francisco. I didn't know what I was gonna shoot, but when I found out that my wife's flight was we were gonna do a photo duel tonight. But when I found out that her flight was delayed, really it was a no-brainer for me because I knew I was gonna be doing my own video and I wanted to get some street photography. That's the GH5. That's just what I'm gonna use because of that hybrid capability. All right guys, well, I'm tired. I don't really know how to end this vlog. It's a cool camera, GH5. I give it a thumbs up. I also give these guys a thumbs up. Someday Leica.
Không bỏ phần gì ạ?